It's raining heavily, but still we don't have enough rain. Let it rain continuously and all the minds be cooled down. Welcome once again to News Analysis. News Analysis, a weekly magazine on current affairs. To begin with the main points in a nutshell. Crisis awaits world's banks as trillions come due. Somalia link, World Cup fans die in Uganda blast. Stoning a woman to death temporarily halted in Iran. Switzerland rejects US extradition of Roman Polanski. Jones, Manon discuss Obama visit preparations. BP says oil has stopped leaking from Gulf well. Now the news in detail. Crisis awaits world's banks as trillions come due. The sovereign debt crisis would seem to create worry enough for European banks, but there is another gathering threat that has not geared as much notice. The trillions of dollars in short-term borrowing that institutions around the world must repay or roll over in the next 2 years. The European Central Bank, the Bank of England, and the International Monetary Fund (IMF) have all recently warned of a looming crunch, especially in Europe, where banks have enough trouble raising money as it is. Their concern is that banks hungry for refinancing will compete with governments, which also must roll over huge sums for the bond market's favor. As a result, credit for business and consumers could become more costly and scarce, with unpleasant consequences for economic growth. There's a cliff we are racing towards. It's huge, said Richard Barwell, an economist at Royal Bank of Scotland and formerly a senior economist at the Bank of England, Britain's national bank. No one seems to be talking about that much. But he added its first-order importance for lending and output. Banks worldwide owe nearly $5 trillion to bondholders and other creditors that will come due through 2012, according to estimates by the Bank for International Settlements. About $2.6 trillion of the liabilities are in Europe. India's Saina Nehwal, number 2 in the world. Badminton player Saina Nehwal from Hyderabad has won the 2nd place in world ranking. No Indian player so far has attained this kind of a position in the game. She gained this position by winning continuously 3 international games last month. The only person now above Saina is Yihan Wang Ma from China. A few blocks, 4 years, 52,000 police stops. When night falls, police officers blanket some 8 odd blocks of Brownsville, Brooklyn. Squad cars with fishing lights cruise along the main avenues. Livonia to Powell to Sutter to Rockaway. And again, on the inner streets, dozens of officers, many fresh out of the police academy, walk in pairs or linger on corners. Others, deeper within the urban grid, navigate a maze of public housing complexes, patrolling the stairwells and hallways. The small army of officers, night after night, spends much of its energy pursuing the controversial police department tactic known as stop, question, frisk, and it does so at a rate of unmatched anywhere else in the country. The officers stop people they think might be carrying guns. They stop and question people who merely enter the public housing project building without a key. They ask for identification form and run warrant checks on. Young people halted for riding bicycles on the sidewalk. One night, 20 officers surrounded a man outside the Brownsville house after he would not let an officer smell the contents of an orange juice container. Between January 2006 and March 2010, the police made nearly 52,000 stops on these blocks and in these buildings, according to a New York Times analysis of data provided by the police department and 2 organizations, the Center for Constitutional Rights and the New York Civil Liberties Union. In each of those encounters, officers logged the names of those stopped, whether they were arrested or not, into a police database that police say is valuable in helping solve future crimes. These encounters amounted to nearly one stop a year for every one of the 14,000 residents of these blocks. In some instances, people were stopped because the police said they fit into the description of a suspect. But the data show that fewer than 9% of the stops were made based on fit description. Far more, nearly 26,000 times, the police listed the furtive movement, a catch-all category that critics say can mean anything or other, as the only reason for the stop. Many of the stops, the data show, were driven by the police's ability to enforce seemingly minor violations of rules governing who can come and go in the city's public housing. Forget, theaters want you to sing along. They came dressed as pink ladies and beauty school dropouts. They cheered Danny Zuko and Thunder Road. The Ramalama ding-donging, deafening. No, this wasn't a karaoke club. It was the premiere here for Grace. Sing Along, a re-release of 1978 musical starring John Travolta and Olivia Newton-John. By adding lyrics, subtitles, Paramount Pictures hopes to inspire audience in places like Texas and Michigan, clad in costume preferably to trek to multiplexes and sing about summer loving. The goal is to create a true event, said Adam Goodman, president of the Paramount Film Group. How do you get groups of young people going to the movies and having a great time? The key term is young. Older moviegoers may still prefer to sit in silence, but younger audiences, the ones studios work hardest to motivate off the sofa, are increasingly programmed to interact and multitask. Sitting quietly in a theater starts to feel like a bore when you can watch a DVD at home while texting a friend, playing a video game, and posting witty comments on the Facebook. Despite 3D blockbusters like Avatar and Alice in Wonderland, moviegoing in North America is in trouble. For the summer period, which typically accounts for 40% of annual box office receipts, attendance is down by 3% to 309 million tickets, compared with a year earlier. Year of sharp ticket price increases have prepared over the problem. Revenue for summer is about 4%, but movie studios and exhibitors are now starting to fear consumer pushback. The Nepal High Court postpones a date of verdict on Charles Shobaraj. The internationally ill-famous accused of the Bikini murder, Charles Shobaraj is awaiting a court judgment in Nepal. The verdict is now to be declared on 30th of this month. The 66-year-old French national, born to an Indian father and a Vietnam mother, is undergoing a rigorous term in a Kathmandu jail. Somalia linked as World Cup fans die in Uganda blasts. At least 64 people have died in two blasts in Ugandan capital Kampala. Some 70 others were injured by the explosions, which hit a rugby club and an Ethiopian restaurant as football fans watched the World Cup final. Police were investigating whether the blasts were suicide bombings and blamed Somalia's Al-Shabaab militants.